Hey guys, Chris here from the Gamers Hall, and today we're talking Rangers. Let's go. Alright, so right off the bat, Rangers are getting spellcasting at first level. This is amazing. There's so many Ranger spells that would actually help make your Ranger better, and the fact that you're getting these at first level, which also means you're getting Hunter's Mark at first level. This is just going to make the Ranger feel a lot better at that starting out level than the Ranger did before. Favorite enemy is now basically going to be Hunter's Mark, and it's going to be one of those things you do, in combat for extra damage, out of combat for tracking somebody, or possibly in combat if you had marked somebody. Now, if they turn invisible or something, you'll be able to track them, know where they're at, be able to tell the rest of the party, something fun there. But also you get you'll be able to cast the spell a number of times per day for free. So it's supposed to not compete with your other spells, but that really depends, because this spell is also concentration. So it depends on what the other spells that the Ranger are going to be able to have, is whether this competes or doesn't compete, or maybe some of the spells that were concentration aren't going to be concentration. It's one of those things where we really have to wait for the book to see just if this is kind of crappy or if it works out, or if it's one of those things where do you do the extra damage, or do you do like something with utility or something extra that one of the other Ranger spells can do that Hunter's Mark doesn't do. Weapon Mastery. And I don't know if there's going to be a limit on which masteries they can get, or if it's just going to be open to all of them. But either way, you're getting Weapon Mastery, which means your weapons will be able to do just a little bit more. And depending on which weapon you get, it could give you a tactical advantage or something extra in combat. This is kind of helping the like Gish type character that they are, where they're a little bit caster but a little bit fighter as well. Starting at second level, now you're getting your fighting style, and they're supposed to be open up to all the fighting styles, so it's not a limited option anymore. You get a pick from all the fighting styles. Another one of the things you can do is you can actually forego getting a fighting style and actually pick up like the Nature Warrior, I think is what they called it. Basically, instead of getting a fighting style, you can pick up 2 Druid Cantrips instead. So does your Ranger want to be focused more on casting spells or fighting with weapons? Your choice. But then you get another thing at second level. It's called Dept Explorer. And what this is going to do is, if you're already proficient in a skill, you can actually make one of those skills expertise. And then it's going to give you 2 extra languages. 2 extra languages is big. Now, it might not come up in everyone else's games that often, but the DMs I tend to play with, like, languages is a big deal, and they really make it tough if anybody doesn't know those languages. We have to find somebody that has comprehend languages, or hopefully someone in the party has one of those languages. Learning 2 extra languages as a Ranger, I think, is a very big deal, and I think it's going to help the Ranger class out a lot. 5th level, you're still getting extra attack. Nothing's changed there. At 6th level, you're getting this new ability called Roving, which means your speed is going to increase by 10 feet. And then on top of that, you get a climbing and a swim speed. This is huge. Now, the swim speed is kind of one of those things where it's like you gotta hope that the DM is gonna do some underwater encounters or have some type of water in the adventure, maybe. It might come up, it might not ever come up. But the climbing for sure. Like, you're that Ranger, you're in a city, it's getting attacked, you can climb a building and snipe down prey, no problem. Or you can just climb up and tell people, hey, I can see this is what's happening, we need to go this direction. The climb speed is a bigger deal than I think people are making it out to be, because literally the moment I heard that they were going to get a climb and swim speed, I immediately was like, oh, okay, Ranger is definitely an option. I am definitely considering the Ranger now because, like, the amount of things that you're going to be able to do in and out of combat with a climb and swim speed. Like I said, swim speed is kind of like maybe, but the climb speed, oh, it's the climb speed is going to work and it is going to come in handy in so many different situations. I think people are underestimating that feature completely. Another one of the things that they've changed about the Ranger is the fact that per long rest, you can change one spell in your prepared spell list. Now, it used to be you could do this when you leveled up, but now they've switched it to you can do one per long rest, which this is great because now if you picked a spell and like that spell sucks or you're just not using it or there's a better spell you could have gotten that would have been more useful, well, now just a long rest and now you can actually get that spell and get the useful spell. So like this is great. I think it's going to be, it's a nice addition to the Ranger class for sure, and it's going to open up their utility for sure. Another one of the things that they talked about is the fact that they're increasing the amount of spells that are on the Ranger's list, and some of those spells are getting changes as well, which I'm hoping some of those that were concentration are not going to be concentration anymore. So, I mean, we'll see. Who knows? We'll have to wait until the player's handbook comes out. At higher levels, you're going to get 2 more expertise options. So this is kind of adding to the point that, the Ranger is a bit of a skill monkey. And they were skill monkeys in other editions, and I think them being a skill monkey in this one, it really adds to the fact of, how they're like a hybrid character, a multi-class of like fighter, rogue, fighter, druid, things like that. So out of combat, your Ranger's going to be able to do more. The next thing is at level 10, you're getting an ability called Tireless. And a certain number of times per day, you can give yourself temporary hit points, which is nice. And the other thing is, I'm not sure how much this is going to come into play. It depends on what the changes to the spells were, or the changes to how many times you're going to get an exhaustion. So the big changes is when you take a short rest, you can remove a point of exhaustion. Now, this depends on what's adding exhaustion, what's giving you exhaustion. Are there extra spells that are going to give people exhaustion? Are there abilities that are going to give people exhaustion at some point? Are there different monsters that are going to put exhaustion on people when they attack them? I think things like this is when this might matter. Or it could be one of those abilities where it sounds really cool, but just doesn't come up that often, hardly ever. Alright, so at level 13, you're going to get your first upgrade of the Hunter's Mark, which is that when you take damage, you no longer have to take concentration checks with your Hunter's Mark. Now, you still have to concentrate on it, and the reason for that, they said, is so you can't stack it with other abilities. So part of me says that they're doing this for a balancing reason, but also, I mean, if Hunter's Mark is adding as much damage as they say it's going to be adding, then, I mean, that alone is probably why it's going to be, requiring you to add concentration. Because I know some people were griping like, oh man, clerics get to, cast spiritual weapon without concentration. Like, it's a level 20 ability for the war domain cleric. And it's like, oh, well, they get to do all this other stuff. Majority of the other stuff that they're doing that they don't require concentration on anymore is stuff that it doesn't do extra damage. And with Hunter's Mark doing extra damage per hit now, and a Ranger being able to do anywhere from 2 to 3 attacks per turn, then, that much extra damage, yeah, they're probably going to want you to concentrate on that to balance out the game. At 14, you're getting Nature's Veil, which is basically, hey, bonus action, I'm going to become invisible. And it's like this natural camouflage that Rangers are basically going to get. And I could see this coming up in so many situations, be it in or out of combat. I think that's the thing I like about a lot of these options that have come with Ranger, is that there's so many of them that, I mean, a lot of them are in combat, but there's so many outside of combat. And I think people are failing to see that the ranger has potential in combat and potential out of combat as well. And the amount of things you're able to do outside of combat, wow, and the amount of things you're able to do inside of combat, like with the climbing, is it's going to be just that much better. So at level 17, your Hunter's Mark is getting another upgrade, and that's going to be anyone who's under your Hunter's Mark. You now have advantage on all of your attacks versus that target, which is craziness stuff. So damage, once you cast the spell, basically damage can't break it. So outside of somebody counterspelling it or dispel magicking it, then you're going to be attacking this target and always having advantage. Oh, that's huge. Now, granted, it is 17th level, but still huge. At 18th level, you're getting Blindsight up to 30 feet. Now, kind of a little late for something like Blindsight, but it's really cool at the same time. I mean, free Blindsight, which means 30 feet, darkness, invisibility, you're going to be able to target and attack those creatures. And, like, I mean, if you have Blindsight, I'm pretty sure that means you'd still be able to target them with spells such as Hunter Mark, even if something is invisible, which you would require you would need sight to cast the spell on them before. But now, if you have blind sight, I think you'd be able to cast the spell on them because of the blind sight allows you to see them. I mean, I don't know. I'll have to see the rulings on that one once I get the player's handbook and look at all that. But that's what my mind's telling me automatically. Then at level 20, your Hunter's Mark damage goes from a D6 up by 2 dice up to a D10. And, whoo, extra D10s of damage? That's nice. Now, granted, I wish they had given them some more things that were a little more different outside of damage and combat. Now, the blind sight, that could be in and out of combat. But those are really, really nice additions, and yeah, I think the Ranger is good. I mean, honestly, I don't think the Ranger is the class that got the least amount of love, is what everyone seems to be saying. They're like, oh my god, they did this to Monk, and they did this to Ranger. Now, a lot of people are saying that the things that they have a problem with is the fact that this Ranger is so heavily reliant on Hunter's Mark. But we don't know just how reliant they are on Hunter's Mark until we see the rest of their spell list. Or, some of these extra abilities. Because, I mean, some of the subclasses, like, man, the fact that the Gloomstalker is still getting basically to be invisible on creatures that rely to see on them with dark vision. Yo, that was a Gloomstalker's bread and butter, and they still have it, and it still is going to be one of the things that makes them one of the strongest, probably, subclasses to pick out there, because that's so strong. But, I mean, this Ranger, just the baseline Ranger, has gotten some significant upgrades, and I think it's great, and yeah, sure, they're not as great as some of the other things, but if you compare this to the old Ranger, whoa, this is great. And like, this isn't even me talking about like what the subclasses get, because some of the subclasses get some pretty crazy things, and we'll talk about that in a later video. But hey, tell me what you guys think. Like, is the Ranger still nerfed? Is it still as bad as everyone thinks it is, or do you think that these upgrades were enough to pull the Ranger out of there, or do you still think it's the worst class of all the classes that they've presented in 2024? Hey, until then, like, share, subscribe, and have fun playing D&D with you and your friends.